recording.
Well, my gosh, look where we are. We're back. You're on one side of the world, I'm on the other.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a sweater, you're wearing tank tops. You're obviously someplace
Yeah, we're in
gorgeous
our
and warm.
Yes.
we're in our onesies.
We're actually naked from the waist down, but yes, we're in Bali. We're way up north in Bali.
That's TMI.
Well, we just thought we would just
Well,
full
maybe that'll-
disclosure. Well, not full disclosure, but
maybe that holds their interest a little bit longer, or quickly they dump on us.
No, you're just a big tease, that's all.
Right.
but anyway, so yes, we're once again with our friend Nancy Ward, and we're here to actually talk about the tail end of our South American trip. But we wanted to just let our listeners know that we are in northern Bali at a naturist resort, a fantastic place. You can learn all about it on our Instagram page and our website.
Yeah.
But today we'll defer that conversation about Indonesia.
Yes.
Well, it's so funny because when Paul and I were chatting a few days ago and trying to find a time to connect with you again, Nancy, it was like, wow, well, what's there to say about the rest of South America? And I'm like, oh my God. And we were in the pool just the other day and we started like revisiting all of our memories. So here we are today. And
we have a full podcast.
Oh my gosh. Paul, why don't you start with the first story?
I think we need to get going.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll switch this to the other view. Of course, I have to put my glasses on.
Put your glasses on.
Yeah,
let's
well,
get a full view of the two of you, half dressed and half not.
Right.
And what looks to be like a gorgeous room.
Yeah, actually, this is the main kind of
the open lobby area of the hotel. There's only 10 rooms at this hotel. Anyway, we'll tell you all about that at another time.
Yeah.
But what we do want to start with is telling you about
Iguazu Falls.
Yeah, in Brazil, in northern Brazil. So
and Argentina, because we were able to get on both sides of that water. And my gosh, Nancy, it just was so powerful. And I don't know, it just gives me goosebumps telling you about the water energy at the falls.
Well, it's one of those like internationally renowned waterfall systems of three country borders and a few lake river systems that come together and drop an extraordinary amount of water, magnitudes larger than the Niagara Falls. Yeah, and I think a little smaller than Victoria Falls, but it's right up there. It's a huge volume of water. We have actually a few pictures to share about it as well.
Yeah, it's like when we were dropped off into the park, we took a shuttle on in, and it's kind of like, we're going to the falls. And as we just kept, and it's so well laid out and the design is so beautiful, so we were just kind of navigating in with the other tourists. And it wasn't super crowded when we were there, but the closer we got to the water, it just became obvious.
Right. So you can see here, are you seeing the map on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is on the Brazil side. There's actually a state national parks on both the Brazil side and Argentina side that are both very well done.
Yeah.
This is the map of the Brazilian side, and you can see where you get dropped off over there on the left, and then you kind of meander down toward the water. So it's a beautiful approach to the water.
Yes.
And then, boy, the falls are really spectacular. There we are in front of one of the waterfalls, and the falls are all over the place. It's not just walk up to some little falls somewhere. It's massive, as you can see here.
Yeah. And even you can see kind of the iconic rainbow in the lower left-hand corner. And those photographs, you usually see like these massive rainbow reflections.
And there at my chin, down from my chin and out, you can see the walkway that we walked out onto that area, out into the actual falls.
That's where it felt like too damn many people.
Yeah.
And the spray of the water was so intense. I'm like, Paul, I'm going to go out and see if I can get a great picture. But I ended up like halfway out there, just completely drenched.
Yeah.
And I just like, almost head down, trying not to hit people as I'm walking. And I just bailed So
we-
the view,
We did find some place to stretch our arms out a little bit like that.
oh yeah, yeah,
And then we had some selfies in the
super
thing.
wet.
It was really nice and got quite happy about everything.
I'm thrilled.
And then here's just a little video of us
This, Nancy,
going, and we took a raft in the warm afternoon heat, and they drove us into one of the waterfall systems.
two, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was so cute because the girls in front of us, a family, and then there were women behind us. So the energy was like super fun and screaming. And, like we were on a carnival ride and getting completely drenched.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Completely drenched.
And just aware that we might breathe water instead of air there for a while. So
That looked like so much fun.
yeah,
It was a memory forever. I'm so I said to Paul when we were over on the Argentinian side, it's like this place is really one of my favorite places that we've traveled to. It was
Really?
dramatically
yeah.
incredible.
And we took our time because we had several days, I think 3 nights on the Brazil side at
Yeah.
the conclusion of our Brazil trip, which will tell you a little bit of some additional things about Brazil at the end of the podcast. But we then went over on the Argentina side, which is literally just sort of driving over. It was the easiest
Yeah, like
border. They
20
don't
minutes.
even really check.
Yeah.
So, and then we spent a couple of nights over there in a lodge right on the river and just chilled out and didn't really do the activities that we'd already done on the Argentina side. We just rested.
Yeah.
And then we went to bed. We normally go to bed about 9 o'clock, and we were planning to, this has to do with our emergency plane landing story, by the way, as we segue.
Oh boy.
So we went to bed in Argentina, ready to get up the next day and get on to the Argentina airline system and take a flight direct to Mendoza. I was so proud of ourselves that we found this flight because Mendoza was where we wanted to go to celebrate the grape harvest season and explore one of Argentina's premier wine growing areas.
So I'm sipping my coffee and I hear Paul going, oh my God, damn. And I'm like,
So we woke
what
up the next
happened?
day, and just moments after we had gone to bed the night before, Argentina Airlines sent a message saying, we're on strike tomorrow, all flights are canceled. So here we are, kind of like bum in the middle of whatever, nowhere, in Brazil. And so
Yes.
there are 2 international airports, one on the Brazil side there, that's kind of really the Brazil airline system, and one on the Argentina side.
And even one in Paraguay, which we managed to zip over to Paraguay for lunch.
Yeah, but we didn't care about their airport because
tried.
it was not as close as the other one.
Right.
So I got online and I found, long story short, a flight that left from the Brazil side that was going to Santiago, Chile. So I couldn't find anything that was really a good connection or a reasonable price because we had to start from scratch and actually buy the ticket.
And we were kind of done with that hotel. It was like,
We were leaving no matter what.
it was like, we need to push on.
So we found this flight that goes to Santiago, and Santiago, Chile and Mendoza, Argentina aren't really that far apart. So we were able to put together that in addition to landing at
Midnight.
we could make the flight and land at midnight in Santiago. And then I booked us bus tickets the next day over the Andes to
Which
Mendoza.
sounded wonderful. 10
Yeah,
hours.
it would have been it's only a 10 hours, a little long.
Yeah,
but
so many people said, oh, that's really a sweet ride. to
so
go up and
a
over the Andes."
reasonable 10-hour bus ride over the Andes to Mendoza, where we wanted to be we had appointments and things planned to do there and stay in a nice hotel. So we get on the flight, no problem. And during the flight, they come on and say, we have to make an emergency landing. And that's actually like all they say. The flight's full.
And we've never heard this in all
We've
the
never
flying we've
been,
done.
So
And it's like, brace yourself.
no, they didn't say anything.
No, but
they-
in my head, I'm like
I know
going
we're
into
like
all this, like, oh my
it
God.
must be mechanical. And here we are in the air. We're at like 35,000 feet and we have to make an emergency landing.
Guess where? Mendoza,
So
where we were going.
the plane lands, the Santiago bound plane lands in Mendoza.
And
Which
they
is your ultimate destination.
it
Yeah.
was.
So
It was.
once we hit the ground, we realized, okay, it wasn't like a landing gear issue. All the wheels kept moving into complete stop.
Yeah.
And then
No fire.
only then they announced that it was a medical emergency of a passenger on board. We were near the front of the plane and the emergency was in the back. And so we didn't really have any knowledge of that
It
until
was a
they
young,
told us.
kind of like a high school boy, maybe 15,
Yeah,
that they offloaded, and apparently he had stopped breathing.
right. Really low blood pressure. And it was enough of an emergency. Ultimately, we learned that he got back on the flight, which of course
Yeah,
was like, what the hell?
he did.
But he didn't even have to like stay off the flight. But
Very long.
so here we are in a country, we start in Brazil and we're bound for Chile, but we end up in Argentina. You can imagine that the administrators want to talk to each other, right? So we're on the ground for a while,
Like,
while they figure out what's going on.
geez,
So
90
then,
minutes. So I'm sitting there, after the kid is offloaded, and we're just like, there's communication between the countries because here we are now in Mendoza.
right, and we're in like row 2. So they open the door and we can see outside.
So I'm like, doing a Google Translate on my phone, requesting that Paul and I could just get off the plane, that this was actually our destination. And Paul's looking at me like, oh my God, this is an emergency. Don't bother them. And so I'm like, hey, in grad school, my favorite advisor, Dennis Fahey, I hope you're still alive, Dennis, because his wisdom is you can always ask. They would maybe say no, but a no is okay. So I take my phone up very nicely and she reads it and she just kind of shakes her head and she's like, no, I don't think so. Well, I go back to my seat and it's like, okay, that's a done deal. We'll just fly on.
We're like a couple of hours on
Santiago.
the ground.
Yeah, we
Couple of
were.
hours.
And so a little while, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes later, the
Felt like-
pilot is looking straight at me and he's doing this.
Oh boy, he's being reprimanded now.
thought,
He has to go to the principal's
And I'm looking
office.
behind me because I was like, okay, he's not me. It's like somebody else back there. It must be a flight attendant that he's like, come up here. And then he just kind of looks at me and I get out of my seat and very nicely walk forward. And he just said, so you need to land and stay here? Is that what you want? And I said, yes. I said, is that possible? And he said, I think so. He said, and this is weird, if we can get 25 people to off plane, then it'll be okay. So I go back to the seat. It gets announced that yes, those of us that had, planned on being in Mendoza could just stay. Well, ultimately there were only 17 that happily got off this plane. Meanwhile, like a mother behind us was just grumpier than all get out because, they were just sitting on the plane with her little kid and like others. So it's like, I think it's like 1:30 in the morning and we're now in a holding pattern outside, right on the concourse in Mendoza, just standing there. And the shuttle bus comes over and we're like, Paul immediately he's like, I'm just going to get on board because they're going to take us into the airport.
Yeah, I didn't need to admire the tarmac. It's like, okay, we can get off. Here's the bus, get on, let's go.
But it wasn't like that. So,
well, it was just a little bit of a delay. But
Another
the thing
half
is that the airline, and it was Jet Airways or something, I forget. It's this Smart Jet Airways,
Yeah.
Smart Jet,
Yeah.
something like that. Brazilian, or Brazilian airline. Took very good care of us, actually. And so we had to say goodbye to our luggage, which went on to Santiago. They weren't able to do that, which I'm not
Right.
surprised. Can you imagine opening the bottom of the plane and finding the right luggage for 17 people? It's insane. So that was fine. We were fine with that. But what was really a big surprise was the airline paid for our hotel room in Mendoza that night. So they shuttled us in and we kind of all got the VIP treatment, and the guy that met the plane couldn't have been like a better customer service sort of person to take care of us.
Yeah.
And so they get us out to
travel vouchers, food vouchers.
We went to the hotel where like a few blocks from our hotel where we were destined, actually,
the
and the
beautiful
next morning.
high-end hotel.
So our next night, but we just went to where the flight attendants and the pilots are always put up on their overnights. It was that sort of a contract hotel that they have. So they drove us down. Yeah, you want to ask a question?
Did you ever find out why they paid for your hotel?
No,
we didn't want to ask.
Sometimes you don't want to ask.
Well, it's funny. I'm good because just yesterday, Paul's like going, the refund really was pretty minimal that they gave us from the airline.
Well,
And
the
so,
Argentina, the other flight,
yeah,
it was a non-refundable ticket. So of course, when you agree to the terms, you know how we all do for anything to keep
Yep.
going with our computing, you're
Yeah.
just like signing away all your rights.
so maybe that's
Yeah.
why the universe just kind of like, okay, well, we'll just pay off your night and your breakfast and yes,
Wow.
so we
It all
checked in
came
at the
out in the wash.
hotel. I swear it was like 2:30, 2:45 in the morning when we got into
We
that
were happy,
hotel.
like I say, we were walking distance literally to the other hotel where we were
Perfect.
staying. We were staying right on Independencia Square in Mendoza, and it was at the Park Hyatt. And
Well,
maybe this is a good segue. We're going to
it's a
we want to talk to you about the Vendemia annual
wine festival.
named ceremony wine festival that we were participating in with about several thousand other people. But we also were there to visit a very specific winery, and it was the lady that we were connected with at the vineyard who told us to just stay at the Park Hyatt, which was a little bit more than what we intended to spend, but we got to buy 2 nights and get one free. So we were going to stay 4 nights. And the first night was the night we weren't going to make, right? So I called the hotel and they were like, no problem. We'll waive the fee given what's happened. We won't, because otherwise, usually pay for if you're canceling on the day of, it's sort of like, wah, wah,
Yeah.
too bad. And it was,
Exactly.
it was a big price tag.
Yeah.
So they let us out of our first night, but we still, because we were still the 3 nights remaining, we still got pay for 2 nights and get three. So it was a pretty
Yes.
decent deal. And staying in that hotel, just a few blocks from the airline hotel, was the place to be because it was ground zero for the celebration of this Vendemia. Like we met the vice president of Argentina, not
Well,
personally,
stop it.
but there
We
were all
saw
these
her outside the
dignitaries
window.
there. There were like the ceremonies came by, the parades all ended there. We were like in the middle of like a circus at the Park Hyatt.
It was like ground zero for all the activity because this Mendoza region has this annual event where they select a queen to represent these regions. And so the parade on Saturday night is just like this, endless queens,
I think it was
representing
Friday
their
night.
region.
Yeah,
Was it Friday?
it was, but a
So
parade at night and then a parade the next day, different.
so people at the parade have baskets like on poles because all of these princesses, because you only get one queen on the final night, and she happened to be from Mendoza City, which was Mendoza City's very first queen. So the city was very, very happy to get her. But each region throws products that,
Melon.
well,
No, melons
yes,
into the
the
basket.
melon growing region actually throws big melons at people, and I'm
Serious?
serious. It's like the guy at the front desk at this hotel, he's like, be careful because you could get hit by a melon. And we're like, oh
Okay,
yeah,
we'll
sure.
be on the lookout.
You're just like joking with these, North Americans. Oh no. No. So that very first night parade, we were kind of like, oh wow, okay. And we didn't even last because it just kept coming and coming and it was getting quite late.
Well, it
Right.
turns out,
So
but it turns out that the hotel room that they put us in, very nice room,
yeah.
was on the outside. You know how sometimes you walk down the corridor and you don't know if you're going to have your room's on
Yeah.
the left or the right. Just so happened that our room was on the exterior view that was the side of the hotel that was going to give us the view of the parade as it
Coming
went by.
back
So we walk back from the parade and we get
again.
to our room. It's still going on. It ends at the hotel.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing some of the same floats that we had seen as it had snaked its
Only
way
from
through
our
the
high,
city.
I don't know, what, fourth floor perch or something.
Yeah,
It was perfect. It was
yeah.
perfect. And so, well, when you make reference to the Argentinian vice president, I see like the following day, there seems to be more like activist groups and more humans marching in the parade in addition to all these princesses yet to be, discovered yet again. So all this parade's going on, and I look down and I see people just running towards the side doorway because the VP, the new vice president, and we had talked about the government change in Argentina in our previous podcast with
yeah.
you, right? And so I'm like looking down the window edge and snapping photos of her. And the parade is just marching by, and we're like, oh, heck, we don't even need to go out to the street. to observe it. Well, eventually I did navigate down out in front of the hotel, like Paul said. It just marches right on by. The activity of dance troops just was like, well, it was kind of like being in Carnival.
Right,
And
we have,
I was snapping photos, shooting videos. It just, the energetic for this wine festival was
yeah, we have just a little
over the
video.
top.
Here's just this is the day, this is a little, just we'll watch
I
just
love the wine
a
glass
few
out
seconds
being held up.
of the day, of the daytime.
Yeah, I mean, the
Do
guy
you see
with,
that, Nancy?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and the guy holding that wine glass was like serving his wine from the hotel to thirsty people as they were going by. But look at the costume.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole thing
I
was
mean, this
really
is just
sweet.
a tiny piece of
wow.
the beautiful people. Now here's the men coming through.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh,
yeah,
look at those costumes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah. These
Okay.
were tame compared to what we're going to show you at Carnival in Brazil,
Now,
by the way.
meanwhile, these people have been marching. This is kind of the tail preview station. Like, the cameras were around there.
Yeah,
So they had to pick up the pace again for TV because
but
this was all on TV.
yeah, it was a wonderful cultural kind of look into
Yeah.
a really fun regional celebration in Mendoza. So anyway, yeah, that's what we had to show you for the
So
Vendemia.
we
So,
didn't even know this was happening, by the way, because, in 2019, Paul's family was having a big reunion
right,
in Bowling Green, Ohio. And so
the Sposato
the
reunion.
Sposato family reunion. So all of a sudden, like, I just remember that I had seen online that there is a Sposato family
Vineyards
vineyard,
in Mendoza, Argentina,
Argentina. And the owner is based in
Delaware.
I keep saying she's in Delaware, and her name is Karen Sposato, a beautiful woman.
But
She is like the super light of Sposato winery.
yeah,
So she's like, oh, be sure and enjoy, yada yada, stay here. This festival is happening, and I'll see you there.
right. And we've been in touch with her for years. And at our reunion, we tried to get some of the wine shipped. But moving wine between US states doesn't always
It never
work.
happened.
Sometimes it can
She just
work. And
couldn't get the
so
distributor
we
to
ended up
make
not
that
getting it.
happen.
But
So
visiting this
I'm like,
winery,
Paul, we have to go there.
yeah, for years, we've been trying to go since before COVID.
Yes, I was determined that we had to go visit Sposato family vineyard.
So, and then just a little back segue with the whole airline debacle. I mean, we wanted to get to Mendoza because this was an arrival on Thursday. Ultimately,
Yeah.
The emergency landing was early Thursday morning. We had Friday morning arranged for a private tour at the winery.
Which was
So
really
we
only
were
like
gonna make it,
20
like
minutes
we
from
were
the hotel.
determined, even if we had to take that bus all day, that day from Santiago, which we ended up not having to do.
Right.
But we were going to the winery, so we were celebrating the Vendemia, which was 2 parades and actually a huge amphitheater event as well on Saturday night.
And we had tickets for
And we
that.
had tickets for that.
That's where the Queen got selected.
Yeah. So we were, targeting these 2 main activities. And so we did get to the Sposato winery.
So yes, and it was like, our driver just throws us out, where we're supposed to go, and took us a little while to kind of like, hello, we're here, because there wasn't like just a door that you walk in. You have to prearrange, right, to visit. So we get in and we meet Carla. Karen had a family emergency and was not able actually to leave the States to come down for the festival.
Yeah, at the last minute, because we
so-
thought she would be there too, but we met the rest of the staff basically. I mean, it was VIP treatment. It was so fun.
So, Carla takes us through, and you can see all this at hotelguys.com.
And we have a couple pictures to show you too.
And so Carla is just, again, another big bright light that represents Sposato winery like no one else probably could. Here comes a butterfly right into us. I love that. So So we do the grand tour, we go down into the caverns. I mean, we're in places that we've really never seen inside a winery. And we've, growing up, well, I felt like I grew up in Oregon. I was like visiting so many wineries. And so we do this whole tour and they ask, well, would you like to have lunch with us? And so they gave us lunch choices.
Right,
And
which we didn't really know.
had no
And,
idea.
well, so let me just see if I can see what I can see.
So we ordered, fresh salmon and we met, I mean, while we were there, actually, the
Oh, that's-
winemaker
whoops.
and the manager were being interviewed by some wine connoisseur bigwig, and they went through like everything that was possible to
Oh,
taste.
that's not what we want
Ooh,
to show
don't
you,
show
not
them
yet.
that. No, that's a nice teaser though.
I
And
can't
so that
find
was fun
it.
to have them in the background while we were just being served, like, I don't know, it felt like a 4-course meal. And this is very, very common uh, to go to a winery and to
There we
stay.
are. That's what I want to show you.
So yes, so here we are,
Just
and
set lunch we tasted the wines and they served us a wonderful lunch. It
and we
was
tasted
fantastic.
so many great wines that we also love. We ended up just buying 2 bottles because we're flying, and actually brought one of those bottles back to Portland as kind of the housewarming gift for my son Levi and his wife Emily. So the 4 of us, when we returned that brief period of like 5 nights to put things in storage before we zipped off to Japan, we enjoyed the Sposato wine with them. So
Do you want to maybe let Nancy breathe or
No, please don't. I'm enthralled.
so, all of this is going on. And at one point, I'm just sitting there and, I'm kind of the crier and I'm just looking at Paul and we're like, finally, we're here. We're doing this.
It was a great
And
experience.
so I'm getting teary just telling that story. You would think it was like, that was my name, right? And that I just like met all my ancestors. And, the grapes aren't even grown right where we were. They're up in the hillside somewhere.
Yeah, nearby, but this is
Yeah.
their processing plant.
Yeah.
And we got into the basement, the fermentation basement, and it was
So
really cool.
after 6 hours, we're like, bye, Carla,
Yeah, we
goodbye,
were there like
everyone.
6
Thank you,
hours.
thank you. And as we're going out, trying to figure out how to get out, Paul hits the right button. Well, what does he do? He lets in this big truck loaded with their fresh pick for the harvest processing.
Full of grapes.
And so, of course, it's like, come back in. And so we got to see a little bit of that. And I shot a video.
They threw some grapes at us from the truck and we got to taste them as they'll be
Yeah, within
processed
hours,
over
she
the
said.
next several hours.
Yeah, yeah. So any
mission,
memory?
mission accomplished. We had quite the story of, I feel like we bended the universe in order for that plane to like land right where we needed to be. And we had our wonderful Mendoza memory on
Forever.
Yeah, we didn't do tons in Argentina overall. We, in our last podcast, talked about our month in Buenos Aires, which was really cool. And then from there, we went into Brazil, ending at Iguazu Falls. And we want to talk to you about the Carnival in Brazil. But it was a wonderful ending to our Argentina time. And there's certainly more to do in Argentina. We missed Patagonia. And of course, because we had to go home in that time to kind of transition things at the house, we missed the other far reaches of northern Argentina, which have some beautiful, very mystical, mysterious mountain areas and sand flats and
I would go back to Mendoza.
salt flats. So there's more to see in Argentina. We're going to keep an eye on
the people are just like, I don't know, the energetics of the people in Mendoza was very different than Buenos Aires. I'll just say that.
Yeah, well, smaller city, and but it's a wonderful culture. I love it. You'd think we would have learned a little more Spanish by now. But should we pivot to Carnival or Easter Island?
Oh,
Nancy, what do you want to say anything? Number one, and which do you prefer to hear next?
No, I think, you're in that region. Let's talk about Carnival.
Okay,
Wow.
so
Carnival.
we have a few more pictures to share with you as well. Yeah, Brazil was really fun. Well, we were on the beach in Uruguay for a month after Buenos Aires, and that was a very kind of down low,
Yeah.
easy month.
Playa Chihuahua,
na-
our tour, our
Nature's
tour,
place.
our tour is the All Naturale Tour. So of course we have to have our clothes off a bit.
A third of the time is our goal.
And I loved that beach just from the standpoint of our little Airbnb apartment. I could be there in like 10 minutes walking.
We were really
So
on the beach. I mean,
yeah,
the house is built on
yeah,
sand, so that was fun. But the
yeah.
reason there's not much else to say about that.
No,
But
chill out.
we did see our good friend that we had met on our trip to Turkey, which was fantastic. She'd had one of the participants
That's right.
on that was a
Cami.
Uruguayan woman, and we
Yeah.
had a chance to see her, which was
Yeah,
fabulous.
she took us out.
But
Yeah.
we were able to find a direct flight to the southern city of Florianopolis in Santa Catarina state of Brazil. And this is first time for us, Brazil. And it just feels like kind of this big country in South America with almost as many people as the US. And
Yes.
there's not, yeah, it just feels a little bit like mysterious in a
So
way.
as the
So it
hotel
was really a
guys,
fun adventure for us.
because we do hotel reviews, we pick a hotel that we really probably should have stayed like 3 nights instead of 5. And it was like this surfer vibe. So everyone's like really handsome, buff, and there are a lot of gay men in that
Just like
region.
us,
So
So,
we're not those guys anymore, right?
Get right in.
So,
but also
in
because
another life.
But because it was Carnival
Uh,
season and we were there before Fat Tuesday,
yeah,
what we learned was there actually are a lot of out of country tourists. There are a lot of Argentinians actually come to Florianopolis. It's a very popular and comfortable place for a lot of gay people.
right.
But overall in Brazil, that is a very comfortable feeling everywhere. We certainly felt that way.
So Paul had purchased our tickets for this event, which the gates were opening at 5:30. They actually probably opened at 6, and we're in line. Well, we hear the parade already happening, okay? And we're not even in the little section venue because you can buy like all these different places and different levels, and
It
you
was,
can't go in here,
it
but
was
you
a
can
little
drink here.
complicated, but
So
we had a great ticket. And
yeah,
what this is it's in a samba school like fairgrounds. They think of it as like a county fairgrounds in the
yeah,
United States
yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
And opposite the building where they all practice, and they take this very seriously. There are different samba schools groupings, and it felt to me like, I don't know, in some instances there were as many as like 1,000 people in each school, or
It kind of felt like it.
600 to like 1,000 people in each school.
It was
And it's
moving
school
and
after school after school from 5:30 PM till like 5:30 AM.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it ran like all
Wow.
night. And as
So
we were
we're
getting in our Uber at finally at like 1:30,
yeah,
not to rush to the end, there were still other people, other citizens
dancers.
coming to get ready to march.
Yeah,
And
yeah. They
Right.
were like the last, probably, well, maybe not even the last group, because
so
it was endless. And then there would be like a
we
break,
have some pictures.
and then there'd be like a signal of fireworks going off, and that was kind of like, okay, everyone come back, and here's another entourage
So
of
it's just what
dancers.
you can see here on the
Okay.
screen now. It's
This
just
woman,
it's just what you expect. We put her on our
she and
homepage.
I like really connected. I looked into her eyes. She came over to
Oh,
me,
there's so much love in the air. It's
and
fantastic.
and how they can dance in those shoes like that.
So here we are with our group, and you can see at the bottom of the screen
Oh yeah,
that T-shirt. I should have grabbed ours. I have it in the
you do.
hotel room here.
It's fun to
But
be.
as part of your ticket, everybody gets a shirt. I forget, there's a Brazilian word for it. I'm sorry, I should have looked it up again. But everybody gets the same shirt, and you
Little
all
tank
wear them. Yeah, they were like, no, you have to put the shirt on. It's like, so
But what I have to say, because I love fashion, and I noticed several people had their shirts modified, so women would turn them
oh, they got
into
them early
like
and
a
like did
skirt.
sewing things with
I
them.
mean, it was how you could take a piece of fabric, because that was your identifier instead of a wristband.
But what I want to point out is that at about 8 o'clock on the screen, the 8 o'clock on the time dial, you notice that on the opposite side of our grouping is the next ticket group holders. They have different shirts. They were all yellows. So there's like, I don't know,
Would we-
20 or more different like groupings like this where people get together, and over the years people go back, they're themed parties, they're like
Yeah.
raves. There was this one which
Oh,
was
wow.
with some food and sort of designed to be a little more upscale. It was a little bit of truth in advertising
Yeah,
problems,
you
but
know,
but it was so fun. And so here's some float examples. They're really extravagant.
yes.
And in
Wow.
between these floats are like hundreds and hundreds of people in that samba school representing that. This is sort of like you almost like inherit, like you're born into a certain region or neighborhood that goes to certain samba schools. Here's Rich enjoying a selfie.
Yeah, it's and when we think of Carnival, I brought with me my, Fat Tuesday beads that I had like picked up in a bar in Portland 100 years ago, right? Nobody wears those. I was the only one that had a little string of Mardi Gras beads. But speaking of beads,
Right, look at her.
Whoa,
check her out. And
wow.
they're like all sizes and shapes too. Not everyone looked like her. And she's probably 45.
And they
I
were
mean,
all
she's like-
absolutely beautiful, men
Yeah.
and women. Everybody was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's so
And
much
she walked
love.
a whole parade in those
Yeah.
platform
Yeah.
heels.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I never saw anyone falter or like I'm going to tip over. And some
Not at all.
of the older women, had a little more sensible shoes, like you should have.
Right. Yes, yes.
But no, most of them, oh my God. Well, they're samba school performers or dancers. And I think there's probably a competition that, they're judged as they parade through, would be my guess, is what I'm making up. So we did all that. Like, we were in bed at 2:30 a.m. and we're like, that's pretty good for our ages.
Yeah,
right?
and so we did it.
And we
then
didn't drink much at all,
This
which
is the weekend. Yeah, that's the key.
but as
This
we
is-
were leaving, it felt like, around midnight, more people were
still
just
coming.
like
That-
coming in
get-
for the
Not only the people going to be marching, but also,
the
sort of
younger
like
ones.
the people who go to the bars at 1 a.m.
After our first sleep
I've
cycle.
never met any of them personally,
No, you
but my whole life. But so we think, okay, the following Tuesday is Fat Tuesday. So wasn't that fun? Here we
Yeah.
are in Brazil. We did Carnival. It's over. Let's move on. We had planned a few other stops in
we got
Carnival.
out of the beach town.
Carnival, including the
Before we bought-
Iguazu Falls at the very end.
Yeah.
And then transitioning over back to Argentina. So we had arranged for a few days in Sao Paulo, and we picked a wonderful hotel. in
Again, a
perfect
great hotel.
neighborhood. And
We'd met a friend too online as we were traveling. He was going into Egypt. And so I'm like, oh, do this. And he's like, oh, when you get into,
yeah, so we met us
you know,
for beer, and it
so,
was really great fun.
it's nice to have somebody, again, a young student, and he's like, oh yeah, we can eat here. This is where the cheaper food is.
Yeah,
And-
we were like 2 or 3 blocks away from sort of like for Portlanders, sort of like a Northwest 23rd kind of a street that you could walk down. It was,
Yeah.
but in a much bigger city. I mean, Sao Paulo is a city of like a gazillion people,
So that,
22 million or something.
again, the joys of traveling, right? When you meet somebody and they give you tips.
Absolutely.
That's
So we knew we were only going to be there for a few days. We considered it a long weekend in Sao Paulo. We would see what we could see.
in museums.
We did a museum or two,
Yeah.
and we didn't get
Yeah.
too far out of the core of where we were, but we didn't need to. We
And
had
it was super rainy because there was a hurricane happening. And so
Oh,
we were
yeah.
dodging rainstorms, and typically we go find an Indian restaurant. We did that. But that was a mega downpour. We had to wait like a long time to even then dash out to our car.
I don't even remember.
Oh
that.
my God, it
Oh
was like
yeah, that's right.
super
Right,
rainy.
and this was near the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like never happened before. One of those weather phenomenon that we keep hearing everywhere we go now. Everybody talks
Yeah.
about like,
Yeah.
oh, well, the weather's not normal anywhere in the
Yeah.
world. So
And you know, another,
it's like never happened like that. It's like it was in the international North American news that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
heard in South America.
Right.
It's like, why is this like typhoon equivalent off the coast of Brazil? It's never happened before. So,
yeah, I
but
mean,
the funniest thing about Sao Paulo,
well, I really wanted to go find their main cathedral because I love photographing, you know, churches, cathedrals, and just kind of the excess of whatever they pour into these structures, you know, in that time period. Um, so we're like doing this mega 20,000 step kind of day, and we're like navigating around out of like one region, crossing a freeway bridge, and then
getting back to
there's
our
like
neighborhood,
another big carnival event
it's not
happening.
over.
And so it just was like party, party, party. We observed people. We found a place to have a couple beers and dinner
Yeah, we walked
on the
into like
street.
we actually walked accident, I mean, just unbeknownst to us into a gay neighborhood street party
Yeah,
that was just happening
yeah,
with like
Wow.
a couple
yeah.
thousand people.
Oh yeah, and everyone was beautiful and way younger than us too. So I mean, it was like,
Still celebrating Carnival, and that whole weekend really it was still
yeah.
even the party does not end on Fat
And
Tuesday
I
in
met a
Brazil.
man
It
on the
just doesn't.
elevator in Chile, in Santiago, and he goes, "Yeah, you know, I'm from Sao Paulo." And I'm like, "Wow, we were there, and you know, it felt like Carnival was like still going." And he said, "Oh, there?" He goes, "It just goes on and on and on." So it confirmed the energetic of that city, and we really
Right.
did enjoy.
Yeah, we really did. I
We
thought that
enjoyed
it
it.
might feel a little overwhelming. And, you know, of course, I was the one place in the world. I mean, I know that I don't usually take this with us on trips, but I was a little bit concerned about going to Sao Paulo because, you know, you hear about bad things and
Uh,
so forth. No problem at all. If you're listening to this and you've had that worry, don't worry about it. Just
well, I mean,
arrange your rides from the airport and anywhere you go
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah.
And pick the right hotel and go with the right attitude.
Oh,
And we were just completely loved every minute of it. It was
yes, there
great.
wasn't a moment. I mean, we avoided Rio for Carnival because we thought,
It's
oh,
just too big.
that's probably too big of an event. Now I'm like, next time we go back down to South America, Rio.
Yeah, if we're there, yeah, if we do that, you know, we certainly would go back to Brazil. I mean,
Yeah,
we would certainly
yeah,
have a conversation about what we wanted to do there.
yeah,
I mean, we met such friendly Brazilians that kept adding. We've started to add over the last
yeah.
few years. I always mark on our Google map like new places that people suggest. So our whole world map is like dot 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 everywhere.
Which is really smart
People
because
suggest like interesting, like, you know, just like the Mendoza event, it's a little bit off the beaten path. Yes, everybody knows about Argentinian wine,
yeah.
but you know, just to go there and experience that regional event was really fun. And
Well,
as it was with Carnival in Brazil.
I'm just flashing because another one of our dear Nancy's, besides Nancy Ward Yu, is Nancy Matthews, and I'm thinking Paul's marking on his Google Maps. You know, just hearing these conversations, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it, I got it, I got it. Well, Nancy Matthews, bless her heart, she'd have her little flip notebook out, and she'd be, "How do you spell that?" And she'd be writing it out. And so the technology is like way different, right?
So I want to
Yep.
point out Rich's T-shirt, Nancy.
Uh,
This
Yes.
in Portuguese says it wasn't me. It's like I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
That
So
is so perfect.
we thought
Yeah.
it was. We thought it was age
So I didn't
appropriate.
tell that story about Nancy Matthews, and it wasn't me, it was Paul.
But anyway, we did wear our themed T-shirts today, and
Uh,
his was sort of like it wasn't me in Portuguese, and mine is from the Easter
Oh.
Island.
Don't stand
I
too
know I
high.
can't stand too high
Oh,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
onesie,
Rapa Nui.
but Rapa Nui, because the last thing we want to talk to you about is
Oh, another
well,
vibrating
Chile.
place.
So, you know, another country where we didn't get quite to the north and we didn't get quite to the south, but you fly out of Santiago to get to Easter Island, and that was sort of a beeline sort of itinerary item that we had arranged.
You know, we had a little day or two before we went out to Easter Island, and we went to a museum. that.
in Santiago.
Highly,
Archaeological museum,
highly
pre-Columbian museum in Santiago.
so it really set us
really
up for
wonderful.
Easter Island, actually.
Because when we were in central and northern Andes and learned that a lot of the Inca civilization only went so far down, and the Santiago, they did make it into Chile a little bit.
Mhm.
And this museum was a wonderful recap. This is going to be our last stop in
Yeah.
South America. It was a wonderful recap in a beautifully done museum, which you can see on our website. We have captured we only put the best museums under the best museums tab.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a fun preamble to our visit to Easter Island. And then
Amazing.
that flight
collection.
out there is it's like flying San Francisco to Honolulu. I mean, it's
About
like
5 hours.
5.5 hour
Yeah.
flight
Yeah.
to get out to a tiny little 7 by 10 by 5 kind of mile island, which we learned forms the southern sort of part of the triangle of Polynesia, with Hawaii in the north, Easter Island in the south,
right.
and then New Zealand uh, uh, in the west, Nan Madol, and in Micronesia, and New Zealand this area sort of forms what is known as Polynesia. And boy, those people are happy.
Oh, talk
Man,
about welcoming people.
they're just happy people.
Again, another place that top of the list for people that are really eager to get out
Well,
and travel South America.
Yeah, it's a destination. It's a destination.
But it did not get, I mean, Paul, seriously, it did not feel like it was like in many places overcrowded, no big buses. It's like,
No, not
like
at
you
all.
have to book a tour. You have to have
Yeah,
a
you have
guide.
to, it's kind of like when we were in the Galapagos about a year ago this spring. Um, you have to kind of make these arrangements, throw a little money at it. Galapagos felt a little more expensive,
It
but
was.
you throw a little money at it. You have to have the park ticket. You have to have a guide to go to visit the Moai, MOAI, the Moai, which are these
Big
figures.
statues.
Everybody knows those.
Yes.
And we
Maybe not.
have one picture to show you, which is not of well, actually it is of the Moai, but we made a good choice by going with, I want to say it's Green Turtle or Green Tortoise Tours. It's on our website. But
Yeah.
we ended up going with a small group
There were
tour.
6 of us.
We could have gone we could have just hired somebody and gone the 2 of us, but we went with like a little sort of short bus group, and it was spectacular. Great group of people, and it was a wonderful way to explore.
Oh,
We did 2 days of touring with them, and we were there long enough to like rest a day and do these tours and go see things and learn a little bit. And still, we had a lot of questions
Yeah.
about what the hell's going on
I think
here.
our first day was probably more impactful and powerful than the second day tour.
Yeah,
But
it
yet,
was.
I'm glad we did it.
Totally.
I mean, we were at an old volcano that erupted like 2.5 million years ago.
Well, the
and
3 points of the island are all old
Volcanic.
volcanic craters.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what's left. I mean, as with everything else, 400 feet of additional sea rise over the last 12 or 13,000 years, a lot of land has been consumed. So what's left is this little Easter Island.
Yeah.
But
Well, I just remember coming down off of the volcano and the tour guide goes, see this big runway strip? Yeah, that's the emergency landing for the Challenger.
Space Shuttle, American,
And-
NASA.
Yeah.
Is one of their, if when
Yeah.
they're up and doing their thing, if they need to come down in someplace other than Cape Canaveral or wherever they come down,
Yeah.
they've got places around the world. And this Easter Island is one of these, oh my God, we're over the Pacific and we have to come down somewhere. They come down in Easter
What a
Island,
big investment.
which it did come down there one time. I believe they said it came down there once, didn't they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna Google
think I
that.
remember that. But
I have to Google that because
Yeah, I
that, can
don't
you
remember that
imagine
one.
what a thrill that would be for that
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, no
Whoa.
kidding.
So
It would
there's
rumble that frickin' island.
So there's a couple of spots on the island where you don't have to have the ticket or go through the rigmarole to see the Moai, and it happens to be in one of the little towns, the main little town. So we chose a place,
The right place again.
Takarua Lodge. I happen to remember the name
Ooh.
of it. extra credit.
His memory is like his mom.
Right outside the one of the two places. So we could go do the Moai sunsets every night.
Yeah.
It was
Our first night in
amazing.
particular was mind blowing.
So
Yeah.
we were there long enough to do these little tours with a great group of small group of people,
Yeah.
enjoy the island. But what we missed telling you was that one of the coolest things, really, we on the plane on the way over, it was like a 3-3-3 configuration on the plane, and we were
One flight a day.
one flight a day in both directions.
Yeah.
From Santiago.
Yep.
And I think you can fly from there to Tahiti once a week or something like that, which I wish
Yeah.
we would have known about. I would have maybe done it.
Yeah.
But our seatmate was a young Chilean man that we befriended. And he wasn't staying where we were, but he wasn't too far away. And so we had a chance to circle back and hang out with him several times in our time there. And that just was a great way to learn too. He lives in a small town in a to the south of where we were. And so I guess almost at the edge of Patagonia.
Yeah.
And so we were able to learn more about Chile.
Well, it was, again, I'm just flashing now as we tell you this story, because he met an elder woman who worked as a policeman guarding these, this area that we would go watch the sunset. And Christopher is his name, and he's like a medical tech at a hospital, I believe. And so anyway, we were going to meet and go have lunch, and I'm like noticing he's having this big conversation, and I'm like, okay, I'll read the New York Times on my phone and just kill time and be polite and not go, okay, come on. Well, he was having this in-depth conversation with this woman who looked like a man. And I said, tell me about what that conversation was. And he said that there was a time when the Chilean sheep industry came in and captured, essentially rounded up the locals, put them in behind rock walls. They were not allowed to go outside that boundary in their own land. And the only time they could go away was to go and herd the sheep and tend to the sheep and work for this big sheep industry.
They were corralled into one like triangle sort of boomerang corner of the island. So they were corralled in there and held basically captive for
the other tears down the cheek is that she was speaking of the physical abuse, the sexual abuse that occurred during that era, 1919, and forward probably, I don't know, a few decades. And that there's just so much wounding of these people on the island as a result of what happened. And, there was, after I heard that
all over the world, isn't it?
Well, it was the same thing. One of the other places we visited in Brazil too had quite the colonial history that they've, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Santiago.
And they still are really happy people. They didn't seem bitter either toward us or to the Chilean mainlanders. But we ended.
It just what I'll just finish this because I just felt like, my hope is that their elders come together in ceremony and really honor those events and to really bring rest and peace to their ancestors' souls so that that wound doesn't keep repeating. It doesn't just poison their beautiful spirits, because
it doesn't seem like it has.
But it's just an interesting travel backstory as a result of meeting Christopher and getting the translation. And
what nationality was it that took over?
They were from they were Chilean. Well, I mean, they were
mainland.
They were Spaniard colonists.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they came there because of the sheep?
Yeah. That they decided to use the sheep for, let me see if I can find this picture. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So,
we have one last picture, which was the end.
Oh, not her again, but hello.
It's
So,
like,
so again, this tour, 2-day tour, on Easter
yeah,
Island
yeah.
included, stargazing.
Right.
And what was
I
happening
have to
there
just go
was
find it.
like, it would either be too windy, it would be too cloudy, and you would have to check in at 8 p.m. And then we would find out if, the stargazing, would happen, and they would pick you up at 9 and then drop you off like after midnight. So again, the group of 6 of us, including a lovely family from Canada, they were taking their daughter on her senior trip as she was graduating high school. So
Oh,
they were a
God.
delightful family.
I can't find it.
Oh, Polly. All right.
All right.
So
I had it queued. There was one picture of us stargazing.
here.
Um,
Oh,
I-
you showed it earlier
And no,
okay, yeah,
that
I know.
the
I was
teaser.
gonna talk
by
about it here,
mistake.
but that was
Yeah.
how we were gonna end. we'll persevere.
I'll find it. You talk.
Yeah. Like
Stargazing with telescopes. I mean, that evening was crazy.
yeah, the same people that we did the 2-day tour with, the Green Turtle Tours on Easter Island, offers a stargazing evening, and it's sort of weather permitting.
Oh yeah, that's such a fabulous shot.
I mean, that was not doctored up. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I know
was,
it doesn't look real at all.
it
It
does
looks
not
totally
look,
fake.
Well, they
Because
had yeah, they had us as
like that
long
one.
exposure. They're like, don't move.
yes.
But it was more than just that. They took us out and they had a few. They were really cool. It was a small group, and they hadn't done it for a while because of the weather, and they couldn't do it the next night. So
Yeah.
we were really lucky, and it was really clear.
My favorite
And
part was the main tour guy, his wife,
yeah, that's
um,
not really. You should do.
it doesn't go that way.
Oh,
His wife made the best hot chocolate. So like about midnight, they come out serving
This is
just
the
this small group. That is the picture.
there's a different one that shows all the
Oh,
moai.
here's one.
Yeah, this is the one.
Oh, shoot. But yeah. All right. Good job, Paul.
Okay, hold.
Good memory.
Yeah, hold it closer.
Oh
Close.
But it's
Okay.
wow.
So on the north, I think it's the North Shore, or is it west? These moai all point out to the ocean. And when the Polynesians arrived in, oh God, I
I
forget
thought
which
they
year.
turned their faces into the island.
Moai were there. So while they adopted, I mean, the way the story is told is that the Polynesians adopted the tradition and the ritual that the Moai represented, but this is what's the mystery. I mean, they don't know really much about it. So
Right?
there is a handful of Moai that are made out of granite.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the ones that we see are, okay, the ones that we see are made out of volcanic rock and are more current and recent in historical terms. But there's just a lot of mystery that we didn't really dig too deeply into. We'd read about some of that before we got there.
Well, and they have unearthed like what, less than 2,000. And we actually visited the quarry in one of the regions that these
Yeah,
moai were created, literally carved off the rock sides and somehow rocked and walked
yeah,
into place. And
pretty amazing.
and so when we asked, well, I think one of the people in the tour group, this is what's nice about when you have a few other people, you don't have to ask all the questions. They said, well, are you going to, keep digging out more of them? And his comment was, no, I don't think we need to do any more of that. He said, rather than investing all that money in the digs, I would rather have solar installation so we can get off of fossil fuel on the island.
Yeah.
Wow.
One guy,
Yeah.
this is not like a,
He's our tour guide.
well, I mean, that's just his opinion, but yeah.
Sure.
Isn't
I
a lot
like
of,
But that's a pretty progressive opinion.
yeah,
No
yeah,
shit,
he's a
Shirley.
pretty cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's everything we wanted to talk to you about.
Is
And I
it?
think we're right at an hour. We're at 11:11 our time. And
Oh my gosh. This has just been fabulous, you guys.
I mean,
Wow.
well, we hardly let you say a word.
I know.
I haven't. You want me to tell you about my trip to Hood River?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love Hood River. Were you out windsurfing again?
Yes.
It's the
No,
best.
I
It's
mean,
the best
oh my,
windsurfing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But no, this is what we all came here to hear about
Oh.
these fabulous experiences that you're having.
Well,
Wow.
you
I
know,
mean, that airplane story is like nothing I've ever heard before. That's just simply amazing.
It'll be our last emergency plane
I
landing
pray
story.
that it.
Yeah, as emergency goes, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, landing where we were
Totally.
destined. Yeah.
Landing exactly where you wanted to,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
fact that they let you off, I just can't understand.
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't think that would ever
no.
happen in
No,
the
no,
United
it won't
States.
happen. Oh, yeah.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what frightened me too?
Oh,
and This is
no,
another little
no.
side story. We're like, had checked our bags in this real
Oh,
hot,
yeah.
hot, sweaty, like we're all going to die before they let us out onto the plane to get to
Yeah.
Santiago. And they didn't even bother to like open, they could have opened the doors and just let some air in. No, they were trying to kill us off.
Tiny little airport.
And so, but before, like we're, putting our bags, through, right, at the counter, and
Right.
I'm like standing back, and I see a woman is given permission to go behind the counter and put things back into her luggage. And that was like, how can she do that? That would never happen in the United States and in many countries.
Security breach.
You would never let somebody slip something. I'm like, Paul, what do you think she's putting in there? And
Well,
then,
I didn't-
of course, I don't think the worst. That moment, I was like, she had a baby. I was like, okay, let's just hope that it's something to do with the baby and not like
Well, I
the
didn't
other B word.
I didn't think that that was what you were going to say, because what was really funny about that is that we don't normally fly looking like we're going to Disneyland, So here we were arriving in Mendoza at this 5-star hotel, and we're in like the ratty ass shit that we had on from Iguazu Falls for 2 days, because
Oh.
and on our website under our reels section, we have some stories that we were telling in real time about that crazy, like Rich kept thinking, oh, we're going to get the luggage the next day. I'm like, oh, honey, this is going to be 2 days.
I was trying to
trust me.
manifest that bag coming, right away.
So-
because we were going to go to a wine event at this like foo-foo 5-star hotel, and we're looking down,
canceled.
and I had a migraine.
They were like
kinda-
in black. It was almost black.
Everyone
tie.
was like super dressed. Here we are in these like sweaty clothes that we really didn't look.
So we went to
look
the
like
front desk.
backpackers.
We went to the front desk. So not only they had let us out of one night of the pricey hotel, but they were like, no problem about the tickets. Cause we were like, we can't go.
We were just
So-
not dressed.
we
It
didn't-
wasn't a
Oh, gosh,
naked place.
We weren't traveling in our resort wear. We were traveling in our river rat wear,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was all good because it was warm in Mendoza too. So we weren't out of character on the street, just
Yeah.
a little bit at the hotel.
Some of those other people did buy new clothes because they were still busy waiting,
Yeah.
but we
But
didn't.
Anyway, that's
We give
that's
away
a,
clothes.
that's a wrap on our South American adventure.
Well, I'll tell you, that was absolutely
Our first time.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Oh.
between starting in the spring up north in Ecuador, you might remember,
Yeah.
and ending down south some months later in Chile, with an in between summer in Europe,
Yeah.
and everything else. But yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, that's pretty much a wrap from here.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for taking us with you. This has just been so delightful.
Oh,
Can't
no.
wait for the next one.
Well, I
Oh.
can't wait either. And thank you always, as always.
That's going to be
for
Japan.
your
25
role.
days in Japan. That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the tease.
I just
Yeah.
gobbled up your Japan pictures. I
Yeah.
just loved
Oh.
them, loved them, loved them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
Okay.
continue enjoying the springtime in Portland, and we
Yes.
will jump back in the pool here naked in moments.
Sounds good. You
Soon.
lucky ducks.
Okay. All right.
All right.
With that.
Love you so much.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Keep shining bright, Nancy. Love
Bye-bye.
you so much.